Hello, hello, and this is another Chooses for Facilitation. You see,
Yeah,
every single time my guests watch this video, they end up smiling. So I
yeah,
guess the work is done.
exactly. I can confirm that.
It's properly done. This is a pre-recorded session, and today we are in France with my
Yeah.
fellow Senegalese friend Jerry. Hello, Jerry.
Hello, Ty. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for accepting this invitation.
No,
This is Chooses for Facilitation. It is a series of lives where I invite people from different areas to talk
mm,
about how facilitation is a timeless skill and
mm,
a multi-sectorial skill that I think, and my guests think so too,
also,
that everyone should have. You know,
yeah,
if you're guiding people, you should be a better facilitator. So,
sure.
Jerry, just so you know, everyone that arrives here have to
Mm,
answer this one question.
okay.
How do you show up when you facilitate?
Okay. Oh, it's it's not an easy question to answer actually, but the good thing about that is I thought about it. Each time I need to facilitate, either it's a meeting or a work session. I always wanna be a listener. So for me, the most important thing I need to show up as is a listener and a translator of the energies, the different energies that are in the room.
That's some sensitivity right
Yeah.
there, right?
Mm,
And I think this whole episode was
mm,
actually inspired. So whenever
mm,
I had my list of people that I really wanted to speak with and reconnect because
mm,
I've met Jerry before,
mm,
I'm like, okay, what is it beyond work that this person does that I
mm,
can associate
mm,
with this session, right? So this episode was sparked by hearing Jerry on an
mm,
interview where he was discussing between the format and the content in
mm,
poetry. Um, I, as a poet, I think you know that the structure,
mm,
the line breaks, the rhythm, the white space,
mm,
it alters or it
mm, mm,
changes the reader, how the reader is receiving the emotions or the
mm,
art that is there. And as a facilitator, I believe like we're never truly neutral, and
mm,
every tool, every method, every white space
mm,
or every silence, seating arrangement, everything that we
mm,
choose and then we carefully craft for the room, it's deliberate to change
mm,
the room's dynamic.
mm,
How do you see the format of a session, the
mm,
tools and structures that we bring to the table, actually dictating the content that
mm,
emerges from the group? Or
mm, mm.
have you ever witnessed a moment where the format actually hindered the
Mm,
content, and
mm,
how did you pivot if you did?
mm. Yeah. So you see, I used to say that facilitation is not neutral at all. What you need to do is to create and hold a space where something can emerge, and for that you need also to pick the appropriate format, depending on the type of person you have on the room, depending on the final intention you want for the session that you are actually holding. And what I used to do is, as you say, to put that in perspective with the poetry thing. You say when you need to write a poem, you have a certain type of information you have to put together. There should be the way you for me, the poetry is about a storytelling. You are always talking about something. Maybe you want to talk about a pen, about a book, but you have a constraint of word or of character to talk about that book. So the constraint of character can be what we know as the constraint of time in facilitation. So there are many things in the two areas that look very similar for me. And so what I used to try to create is a space when even the thing that the person didn't express, I can bring it out. You know, maybe maybe because of the way he's interacting with other people, maybe based on the reaction he's having when someone says something or when we are talking about a specific subject. It's also important for me, to bring out what feels legitimate to say, because you can have the whole plan or your whole plan in your mind, but once you are in front of the people, know that everything can be say out because it can bring tension into the group, or people can be not as free as they want to be to share their ideas, etc., etc. And for me, for example, I have an example in mind when you were talking about the format that failed. I needed to hold a workspace, a workshop for a team, for a specific team. They used to work together. So you had people that were on that team for maybe almost 10 years. You have people that just arrived on the team, and you also have their manager then. And you have new interns that just came in the team. So what happened were that like the seniors participate, they dominated the conversation. They were always the one talking. Others stay quiet, or if they wanted to speak out something, if a senior participant say something else, they will just stop what they wanted to bring out, and the output after the first part of the session were very polite and not really truthful, and you can actually feel that as a facilitator when those kind of things are happening. So what I did for the second part was to put people in smaller groups, depending on the type of people we had in the room. So I did smaller group, more informal conversation format. I asked each group to have the conversation as they wanted to be, and with just one output that I needed them to bring out. So I did that, and I also suggest some group to add a storytelling instead of a solutioning, to create a story about the problematic we were talking about. And when we shared the outcomes of the different group in plenary with all the assistants, people were, say, more open. The tension emerged. They were putting words on certain things, and the real content started to appear. And what were interesting for me is that even the senior participant, I think they had a declic. They just understand that, the posture they were having was a barrier for their other collaborators to express what they wanted to say.
And it's a challenge because
Mm,
depending on organizational culture and
mm,
culture itself, because
mm,
it does clashes, we
mm,
can't, have you as me have experience working in different continents,
mm,
working with
mm,
the same organization in
mm,
different places. The actual culture of the country
mm,
you're in, it
mm.
clashes with the organizational culture from the organization that you're coming, if it is
Totally.
from another country.
Mm, mm,
So sometimes this clashes between what is expected from leadership if they're
mm,
going to be leading and
mm,
guiding and
mm,
controlling the conversation.
mm,
It might be something, which is quite normal in their social
mm,
context
mm,
back home in that
mm,
sense.
mm.
Um,
Totally.
it's always a challenge with that
Mm,
because as we have worked with people from all over the place. Sometimes we have people from different cultures in the
mm,
same room
mm,
and from different accents. Sometimes
mm,
everyone that's there is speaking their second language.
mm,
That happens a lot with me.
mm, mm.
Last year, we have facilitated a meeting where no one had English as their first language.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah.
and the meeting had to be in English because it
Mm,
was the common language.
mm,
So that by itself, it also does create
mm,
some trouble.
mm, yeah.
And it's interesting. Yeah.
No, no, yeah, and I wanted to say, and also one of the barrier we used to I used to face is like, sometimes when you bring people together for a workshop and they see someone from the outside, from outside the team coming, it can facilitate and it can it can be a good thing. It can be take as a positive thing, but sometimes it also take as a negative thing because people can think that the management they already have, that solution they want to bring in the table, so they just give it they giving the word to someone out of the team, to make it more legitimate and to make feel like it's a collaborative work. And sometimes when you need to work with a team where the feeling is there and they think that, oh, you're just someone from the outside who is trying to showcase or to show something the management already decided, it can be also a bit tricky to manage when you're facilitating.
That is an important subject that you brought here, that I don't think we brought this up in this season in English here at Tuesday for Facilitation, which is, when they're bringing someone from outside, and if you haven't met anyone from this team, like they just put you as a facilitator in there, they will feel that there is something that the management doesn't want to do themselves, like they don't want to get their hands dirty, so they hired someone who has an agenda. So this is very important, because last season, one of the guests were speaking about the importance for you to hire a facilitator, to understand what's that facilitator's approach. And that if you're hiring a facilitator who has a clear approach, for example, us at the Welle, we work with radical collaboration. That means we're going to involve everyone in the briefing. It's not going to be the leader's agenda. Oh, our agenda says, so we want to guide these people. We want to guide the people to this point where everyone agrees with something that has been already on the top head of the board, or on the top head of the C levels of the company. And at the end of the day, it's like, no, you should hire another facilitator to do that. I'm not that person. I'm not gonna. I'm here to guide, to take this collective intelligence, to activate the C factor here and get these people to a common place. And that common place, you might not like it.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes it's not a common place you're ready to
Yeah,
get.
totally. And even as a facilitator, if you're not really in phase with, sometimes you can feel that the team is not open to that. The team don't is not ready. Is not even open, but the team is not ready. That not what they need currently. Because sometimes when the management is facing a difficulty, they will automatically, bring a facilitator to put people together. But before that, there are all other things that need to be done. So I think also as a facilitator, it's important to keep that in mind and to see if the team you are supposed to work with is ready to welcome you and welcome the work you want to do with them, or if not, what used to be done before, even by the management or by the team itself before you coming in to build the rest of it.
Because sometimes facilitating feels like they put you in a shark tank,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're gonna have to learn how to dance with the sharks, because that's what they got for you in that context. So
I can
agreeing with
imagine.
you and adding to what you said, I think there is a work that needs to be done previously, and
Mm,
that's a good discovery
mm,
session, right? Like, what exactly is it that the group needs?
mm,
And then there's a work that needs to be done after,
yeah,
which most of the times is not done by the facilitator. It's
mm,
done, by whoever team or commission that is the one that hired you. And
mm,
what is it going to happen
mm,
after that amazing, brainstorming that we all had, after
mm,
that amazing session that we all connected, that we all got together, and then
mm,
what, right? So, we both know that, like, even bringing a little bit to the subject that we're already speaking about, um, it being on a Shark Tank,
mm,
right? We know that sometimes copy and pasting, Western facilitation tools
yeah,
into the African settings don't work. That's
mm,
also putting people on a Shark
mm,
Tank. And if you're not a very good designer, a very good facilitator, and a very good leader, and you know how to pivot, you know how to dance with the sharks, you're not going to be able to get anything out of that group. Like they just might, what's the word for it? They will not work for you.
Yeah.
They're like they're on a strike. They
Mm-hmm.
will they will be
Mm-hmm.
on a strike and not
They won't
collaborate.
cooperate at all. Like,
Yes. Could you share like any specific experience you have had
mm,
in West Africa where you
mm,
realize like, oh no, this was amazing there in
yeah.
France, or this was amazing there in Europe, but this is failing cultural
Mm,
context to the best, and how did you figure that out? How did you redesign,
mm,
or what did
yeah.
you do? Tell us some stories.
Yeah. So you see, as you said, many Western facilitation formats are based on direct expression, quick individual input because times matter, and low power distance assumption. And when you are in certain geography, particularly in West Africa, hierarchy matters. When you are in the same session with your superior or the director, it's not the same thing as you are just in a session with your colleagues. Speaking in public can carry risk in some companies, in some institutions, because people, they know that what they are speaking out, if they speak out today, maybe in 1 year what have been said could be, they could play against them if they want a promotion or something. And uh, when I was facilitating a session, I don't for me it was regarding the tools, the tools that I have learned in Europe, or or all over the world on the internet. Every time I want to use a tool in a context, even if it's a European context, I need to know how many people are there and where those people are from. And for me, what is actually important is sometimes changing the names, even the names or the articles that are needed in the for that tool. Uh, why changing the name is important? It's instead of trying to bring someone in a tool by telling the story of the tool, you might lose them. But the thing is, every time I change the name and use for example, we have something called world coffee. I guess you know what it is. And maybe instead of saying world coffee, we can say, I don't know, café débat or thé débat or something else that will speak to people. And every time at the end of the activity, someone will ask you, where is it from? And then at that time, you can then bring the original name of the tool and explain them that it has been inspired from this and this and this. And if the question didn't pop out during the session, I will always put the reference on the email of closure that has to be sent to the participant. And for me, it's always better to speak out a language that people are connected with, by using different name. If, for example, an activity need us to use chairs, but people are not used to chairs in that organization or that institution, we will use what they are used to. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's a chair or a table or a book that is being used. What you need to do is bring people together. And if bringing people together need to adapt the tool you are using, you must do it, because that's actually the purpose you are there for. And I was in the first question, you remember when I talk about bringing people in peer-based small group, is something that always worked for me, to put people together and to make them feel safe in the binom they are talking to. And once that is done, maybe in the large restitution, I will ask the binom that wants it to speak out, or to read it down, and me and myself, I can read it for them. And it's important in certain circumstances that people speak out while they know that, okay, it's not been known that this is from Jerry, this is what Jerry said, or this is what I said. But I'm concerned that anonym contribution is not always the appropriate way, but sometimes anonymate the contribution of certain people can help us to go forward in what we want to achieve.
It is, while you're saying, I've
Mm,
been reconnecting with sessions that I've done before. And it is true because when you have, like, when you get people into groups of three, for example, and then you
mm,
have them on groups of five, and then you have
mm,
them on groups of 10, depending on the
mm.
size of your, on the size of your meeting,
Your
right?
group, yeah.
Of your event,
Mm,
you will have people on that group of three agreeing with each other and being
mm,
able to look at each other's in the eye
mm,
and be like, no,
mm,
I don't agree with you, or agree
mm,
with you, or
mm,
I can connect with you with something
mm,
similar, and then they
mm,
will have the time, and then that one voice, maybe that
mm.
one thing, becomes, three people's problem, and then it
Mm.
becomes five, and then it becomes
Exactly.
10,
Mm.
and then all of a sudden we're not talking. It's not one me against you, or it's not
Exactly.
me against the management, or it's not
Mm,
me against whatever it's happening here. It's like it's us, and
mm,
that gets people to strategically be
mm,
able to have their voices heard,
mm,
even if their ideas or even if the subjects that they are bringing are
mm,
not at the end of the day
mm,
worked on, right?
mm,
Because sometimes we facilitate sessions where the objective is to pop a lot of ideas, and then we
mm,
pick and choose some
mm,
to work on or to
mm,
discuss. But it was there, it was
mm.
registered somehow, and if it wasn't
Exactly.
registered on paper, it was registered on someone else's
Mm,
head, on
mm, mm.
someone else's heart, on someone else's connection.
Sure.
Then, if you're talking about the same thing, then these people can later on talk about that.
Mm,
This group of three, this group of
mm,
five,
mm,
they were to, hey, I've been through something very
mm.
similar. And then you're actually creating connection.
Yeah, sure.
I think this has a lot to do with the next question.
Mm,
As the writer,
mm,
you explore a lot of the intersection between personal expression and collective expression.
mm,
And that's also my inspiration to invite you here, because
mm,
I think writing is something that comes from very deep within
mm,
ourselves,
mm,
and
mm.
then it goes out to the world for the world to interpret
Yeah,
it. The
exactly.
world has anyone who's reading you has the
Mm,
power to interpret something
mm,
that it was not, maybe it's not even necessarily what you're thinking or
mm,
what you're
mm,
feeling or
mm.
even what you wanted to say.
Yeah.
So when and right now you work with gender, youth, and collective intelligence
Mm,
in France, and in African countries, right?
yeah, sure.
So when you're designing formats and for voices that are historically marginalized,
Mm,
like the youth and specific gender groups, how do you use your writer sensibility to
mm,
create, that structure that just doesn't, it's not there just to extract
mm,
and
mm,
take from, but
mm,
generally, invite this safe, authentic, and personal
mm.
expression?
Yeah, sure. You see, like as a writer, I think what I learned during the different years I have been writing and preparing myself to publish my first books was that expression is intimate. Sometimes I will write something and I will say, but do I want people to know this about me, or do I want people to know that this is how I see a certain thing? And also, so that's make me realize that expression to be done needs safety. Need safety, need time, because you have. I know one of our co-facilitator named Angaid that always say that you have two kind of people. You have the one that speak as they are thinking, and you also have a second group that need to think and elaborate what they are thinking about before speaking it out. And you need also to create an atmosphere where both of those groups uh, feel safe to share what they want to share. And that's actually what writing uh, teach me before I went to facilitation. So what I'm trying to do to be sure that this is taking account while facilitating is like to protect before they expose. Is to ask people to think about what they want to share with us. Like first of all, what they think about this, maybe give them a time to ask themselves, okay, what I think about this, because most of the time we think that we know, but when it's come to writing it down, sometimes you see that, oh, okay, this is what I thought, but no, while I'm writing it, now it make me realize that it's not totally this, and I need to add this. And for me, putting your ideas into writing is a first is help you to clean up what you want to say first of all, and then after that is also to ask them to choose how they want to express themselves. Do you want to read what you have? Do you want to give it to someone else? Or do you prefer people not to hear it by the voice, but to come and read it with their eyes? I know that is something that maybe look random, but it's really helping because you have people that are not comfortable with their voice. You have people that can write what they want to say, and they will like to have another voice speaking that's out for them. And you also have people that prefer not what they want to share to be said because they are saying that, okay, maybe sometimes the voice, can play with the content because the person can add a specific tone, a specific rhythm to what you want to say, and that can actually play, and add an interpretation of what has to be said. So that's actually the small tools that I give people, the small tips that I give people to be sure that what they want to say is really what they want to say, because sometimes you want to share information, but even you, like, it makes sense in your head, but when times come to speak it out, it doesn't make any sense for you. So I do that to be sure that what they want to say is really what they say is really what they want to share or is close to that, and that the way it's been shared with the group is okay for them.
It's very nice to hear that. It
Mm,
gives me so many ideas for activities in groups, and it does make sense. And
mm,
especially, um, I'm thinking about the public that you work with, right? So
mm.
we're talking about working with youth,
Yeah.
and while we are younger, we're still
Mm,
developing
mm,
certain filters, I would like to
mm,
say. But then after we are older, we have much more, we have too many filters that we are just there being political and trying to, not hurt anyone from your team or not hurt anyone who's here, or we're trying not to say something that might put us in trouble because we are in a work context, which is very different than when you come to think of teenagers, for example. They're just developing what they are doing or where they're going or what's the political view of the world and what they agree, what they don't agree. So that's a very good tool for life, right? Let me think, let me write, and let me read it out loud. Let someone else read it out loud, because then when I hear it, it's like, oh no, that's totally not what I said, even though the words are there. That's a good learning from a poet.
yeah.
I will
When
ask
I
you, like,
mm,
yes.
no, no, go ahead.
I was going to ask you for you to speak with us a little bit about how was the process for you to write your book.
Okay. So, and that's what I wanted to talk about actually. So, and as you said, you see, most of the time when you are youth, or when you are young, or even when you are a woman, I guess like you will maybe talk more about that, yeah, and well more about that than me. See, sometimes when you have a group, you see that some people their voice are automatically marginalized. as youth people, as women, as or others category of people. So it's really important to observe those people, to give them the opportunity also to speak out their mind or to contribute, or just to see if what the group is doing or is saying, if they are, if they feel connected to that, or if they want to express something. And sometimes you also, when you have those little break, me, what I used to do is to go to see the one that don't speak a lot, to ask them, okay, are you comfortable? Are you okay with what we are doing? Do you need something specific? And also going to, the one that are taking all the space to, and but like with not asking them to not speak at all, but just making them understand that, okay, we are in a group and it will be nice to hear the perspective of everyone. And what we used to do, what I used to do with my colleague is, when we're starting, we will say, okay, guys, we have 1 hour. How many people are we? We are 10. If each people, and I will say, okay, what time do I need during this 1 hours? I need 15 minutes by myself to give the consent, to, to do the recap, etc. So we have 45 minutes left. If each of you want to speak for 10 minutes, we will run out of time. So when someone is taking he is speaking, the person need to be aware that he's also, you know, he's using that time that could be used by someone else. And it's a way to make them to make everyone co-responsible of what is going on. So that's just something I wanted to add before I answer your
before you
question.
before you speak about your book.
Exactly. So what's happened is, I had a friend, she's still my friend, and that run a blog where she talked about many things in Africa, and she wanted me to talk about the Gorée Island. So I did, the text I sent her, and the text was nice. It was, I talk about what happened there, the slavery, what Gorée Island means for African people, in which year, etc., etc. All the historic and geography things. And when she looked at that, she when she read the text, she texted me and she said, "Jerry, your text is perfect, but your text don't look like you. Your text look actually as something everyone can do. And if I ask you specifically to talk about Gore, it's because I want a storytelling coming from you, as you used to speak when we are together with all those friends. So use your tone like you can do. Just speak as if you had your little brother or your little sister that were at Gore with you, and you wanted to talk about Gore to them." And I was like, "Oh, okay, what does she mean?" Because, I didn't understand at that moment what she meant. So I rewrite the text, adding, more, adding some rim, and making it funnier that it showed that it was. And everyone really liked the text. It's become one of the most, and I think the most written text in the blog for like a month or maybe longer than that. So that's how it started. And she asked me to do a second one about the Lagos, and I did the same. And I started liking, the that thing of people reading what you say, saying, "Oh, okay, I really like this. Oh, I never see this information through this perspective, but yeah, you're right. This is funny. Oh, okay, this is a funny way to learn about an information." So that's where I started. And at some point, I asked myself, what kind of format I wanted to write. For me, the roman was too long, and I didn't want to be talking about the same story for 100 and 200 pages. So I tried different format, and poetry was the one that talk the most to me, because the thing with poetry is, like, you have content of word, you have content of character, but you need to talk about the thing, and to give the person the will to know more about what you're talking about. And me, in my way of writing, I'm always saying my point is not to tell you that this is right or this is wrong. What I want is to question, to make you question, what do you think about this? And I don't even need you to share your answer with me. I need you to share your answer with yourself. I need you to take a time to think about what is going on about love, about friendship, about women rights, about the all the war in the world, about everything that is around us. What do you think about it? And do you take the time to ask yourself that question? And once that is done, and that you have your own, and that you have your own, yeah, your own responses to that. From me, I did what I wanted to do. No, I want people to have conversation, if it's either with themselves or with others people. And for me, to be able to have conversation with others people, you need to be able to have conversation with yourself, and to question what you think, to question what you think that you know, and to be sure that this is actually what you are, that you have all the necessary information to be sure that what do you think, do you know, what you think you know is actually what you know.
At the end of the day, you wrote a book to
Yeah,
facilitate people to have more of a critical thinking.
exactly.
You're like
Exactly.
facilitating with your book. That's what I love about understanding the logic of bringing up the collective intelligence, or bringing up safety and the voices, um and questioning. I think like the world, we have to ask ourselves why things are the way they are, how
Exactly.
can we change, why, and the answers change throughout life. And I
And
think
you need to be curious, because that's, if you are curious, that's what make you participate when you are in a workshop with other people, curious to hear what they have to say, curious to be challenged, and accept to be challenged, because most of the time we don't have that capacity, or that ability.
this, all of you saying, reminded me of this phrase, and with
Mm,
that, I'm going to end our recording,
mm,
about this Brazilian author who says that
okay.
the opposite of death,
Mm,
the opposite of of life is
mm,
not death; it's
yeah.
disenchantment. It's
Mm,
when you stop enchanting yourself,
yeah.
then
Mm, mm,
then you're not alive anymore.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
Mm,
words, they have the power to do that. Questioning, being
mm,
curious, has the
mm,
power to re-enchant
mm,
ourselves.
exactly.
So thank you very much, Jerry, for your
Thank you, Tai.
participation.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Always good to reconnect.
Yeah,
And with
me
that,
too.
we say bye bye. Thank
Bye bye,
you.
everyone. Thank you for listening to us.